I was raised in the Episcopal Church, Christ Episcopal Church in Temple, Texas, to be a bit more precise. My family was very involved at Christ Church. My father was on the vestry, often senior warden. My mother was on the altar guild, often director. So I spent a lot of time there as a kid growing up. When you're a kid, isn't it true that what you know is just what you know? And so I figured that what we did at Christ Church was what true religion looks like. Occasionally, though, I would visit my grandparents and join them on Sundays at the Belton Church of Christ. It was different from what I knew at my Episcopal church, and I wasn't sure what to make of it. But then that cantor would stand up and confidently belt out the first line of "It is well with my soul," without a single instrument behind him. And then the whole congregation would join in, joyful and harmonizing and exuberant, and I would think, well, maybe this is true religion. As a teenager, I spent a lot of time at an Episcopal summer camp called Camp Allen. And one of my favorite things that we would do is gather in the evenings to pray and sing, led by earnest college students with guitars. And we'd all be pressed together in this little room, and we'd be swaying and singing praise songs, and I would think, yeah, this is true religion. In college, I studied abroad in London, and I will never forget the first evensong I attended at Westminster Abbey. On weeknights, when you attend evensong, they invite you to go and sit up front, right next to the choir of men and boys, with their ruffled collars and their angelic voices. And when I first heard them begin to chant the psalm, it was unlike anything I'd ever heard before, and I absolutely knew that I was experiencing true religion. A few years later, I made my very first visit to the Society of St. John the Evangelist, an Episcopal monastery in Massachusetts. I spent nearly a week with the monks, attending every service, morning, noon, and night, sharing with them in their silent meals, and soaking in the holy atmosphere of that special community. And as I walked away that Sunday afternoon, I thought to myself, now that was true religion. I suppose you could say that my whole life has been a search for the heart of true religion. I don't know, maybe that's why I became a priest, because I wanted the search for true religion to be my life's work. It's certainly why I have always loved the words of today's collect. Lord of all power and might, the author and giver of all good things, graft in our hearts the love of your name. Increase in us true religion. I know these collects, coming as they do at the very beginning of the service, can just go whizzing past us. But this is a collect to linger over and study. This is a collect to take seriously and to pray, and not only those of us who wear collars. But what does that phrase even mean, true religion? Well, religion is essentially the beliefs and practices of faith. It is the things we say and the things we do that bind or connect us to God. Religion is from the same root word as ligament, as in the things that connect us. Now, I know it has become highly unfashionable in recent decades to be religious. Better to avoid religion altogether and simply be spiritual. But the bottom line is that the minute you do anything with your body that is connected in any way to something you believe about God, meditate, sing in your car, hang an icon or a cross on your wall at home, you do any of these things and you are engaging in religion, whether you admit it or not. But what's all this about true religion? What does that mean? Well, true as in real, genuine, sincere, lacking in falsehood. And falsehood is sadly something that is actively creeping into Christianity these days. Look around, and a lot of the religion we see, it seems off somehow. It's too commercial. It's too shallow. It's far too cruel to really be true. Christian nationalism, for example, is religion, but it is inherently false because it makes devotion to country equal to devotion to God, and that's not real religion, that's idolatry. Any religion that only cares about people from one nation or one language or one race is far too small and petty to be true. So then what constitutes true religion? And how would we know it when we saw it? Well, as Christians, our starting place is Jesus. We believe that Jesus is the very image of God. He is the incarnation of God. He is the truth of God spoken into the world. So if religion is that which connects us to God, then paying attention to Jesus would seem to be a good place to start. And I know that sounds obvious to a room full of people who came to church on a Sunday. And it is obvious, except that there is a whole lot of Christianity out there that doesn't pay much attention to Jesus, which makes it that much more important that we remember that true religion does. Sometimes, in the midst of a changing world and a chaotic world, you have to restate the obvious. It just so happens that in today's gospel, Jesus is providing us with a master class on this very subject, even if what he is talking about doesn't seem on first glance to be all that particularly religious. He seems to be teaching about where we're supposed to sit at a wedding and who we're supposed to invite over for dinner, but he's talking about far more than party etiquette. He's talking about how the friends of God ought to live, which is to say, he's talking about true religion. Don't seek out the places of honor, he says. Don't clamor for privilege and power and fame. Don't make it your mission in life to get higher than others. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, he says. Those who humble themselves will be exalted. Righteous living, Jesus says, involves seeing ourselves rightly. True religion, he might say, involves seeing ourselves truly or truthfully. We are not superior to anyone else. We are not above anyone else. And that is how the world wants us to see things. That's how the world wants us to act out of that belief, as though we somehow deserve honor and privilege because of just how great we are. But that is not the Christian's way. Jesus says that our place is not at the head of the table. but down below where the servants are gathered. And our people are not the ones giving off head of table energy. Our people are the ones who didn't even get an invitation to the party in the first place. Because the hallmark, the foundation, the bedrock of true religion is humility. Philip Yancey, one of my favorite Christian writers, says that grace, like water, flows to the lowest part. Just think for a minute about your own life. And when the mystery of God's grace has felt the most present and near to you, was it when you were at your highest, or was it actually when you were at your lowest? This is almost like a law of physics in the kingdom of God. Grace flows downward, away from the proud and the powerful, and toward the least and the lost. Plenty of religions out there will promise to help you have more, to win more, to be more. But the true religion of Jesus Christ is about moving lower, not higher. It is about descending into humility, not ascending into power. It's about emptying ourselves of pride and not massaging our egos. It's about letting go and not grabbing for more. In my search for true religion, what I eventually figured out is that it can look like a whole lot of different things. It can look like smells and bells, or it can look like guitars. It can look like Gothic cathedrals. It can look like storefront churches too. But what all true religion has in common is that it helps people to follow Jesus downward, down to the people and the places where his grace is pooling. The prophets talk a lot about this. We've been hearing from the prophets this summer, and today we finished this summer-long series with Jeremiah and the potter's house. If you've been with us very many weeks this summer, then you know well that the prophets can be a little bit intense. They can be pretty unsettling because they were trying to get a numb and complacent people to wake up and pay attention. And if there's one thing that the prophets cared a whole lot about, it is the nature of true religion. It was one of their primary purposes and passions to help us understand what true religion looks like. So here's Micah. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before God with burnt offerings, with thousands of rams and rivers of oil? He has told you, O mortal, what is good and what the Lord requires of you: to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. Here's Amos. Amos. Extra hot to the touch. I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps, but let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a flowing stream. How about Isaiah? Thus says the high and lofty one who inhabits eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and the holy place, and also with those who are contrite and humble in spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the the spirit of the contrite. I hope as we finish this summer series with the prophets, what you are taking away most from them is that God is deeply concerned with our practice of true religion, and not how many candles we choose to light, or what vestments we wear, or what type of music we sing, but whether our practice of religion is shaping us in virtue. Do we say all sorts of beautiful prayers and then do absolutely nothing to enact them? Do we praise a God of love, but then allow anger and resentment to fill our hearts all week? Do we like meeting Jesus here at our high table, but are unwilling to follow him downward when we leave here? If we want our religion to be true, then that's where we'll be, in the low places, where the servants live and where grace pools, because that's where Jesus will always be. And he invites us to follow him.